A sun-drenched, luxurious Manhattan executive office. Accompanied by seductive retro jazz music, the camera pans from the ground up. A pair of long legs in black stockings and stiletto heels, a glamorous tight pencil skirt, voluminous wavy hair, and a secretary with flawless red lips walking with a feline stride. She gracefully pushes open the door to the boss's private office. The boss leans back in his leather chair, pouring a glass of whiskey. His eyes locked on her with an ambiguous, lingering gaze. In the fantasies of most modern people, the 1950s American office was a workplace paradise filled with hormones, expensive perfume, and secret romance. You might think that the unspoken rules of that era were simple, that a secretary could rule Madison Avenue or effortlessly climb the social ladder just by using her beauty and charm. If you think that way, you are dead wrong. The real workplace rules of the 1950s were never about glamorous office romances. It was a systemic, cold-blooded survival game that treated women as beautifully packaged, disposable assets. When you strip away those romanticized retro filters, you will find a dark set of unspoken rules, nowhere to be found in any official employee handbook, waiting for every girl who stepped into the building. Let us start with the brutal hiring process. In the newspaper classifieds of that era, the standards were shamelessly printed. To apply for an executive private secretary, you were required not only to have fast typing skills, but you also had to be over 165 centimeters tall, well-proportioned, attractive, and strictly unmarried. The very first unspoken rule had nothing to do with your professional capability. It was a blatant visual screening. In the business world back then, a private secretary represented the boss's personal taste, net worth, and corporate prestige. From the moment they stepped into the office, they were stripped of their status as independent professionals and defined as a piece of living corporate furniture. Once you successfully passed the visual screening and sat in front of that heavy typewriter, the first unspoken rule you had to learn was to surrender your own name. In the office buildings of that time, no matter how excellent your shorthand skills were or how deep your seniority was, your boss, the clients, and even the building security guards would only ever address you by one title: the girl. You were required to look pleasing to the eye, but you were simultaneously forced to be a ghost. In the business world back then, an executive secretary did not need an independent personality. You had no private office, no independent signing authority on documents, and all the fruits of your labor would ultimately become achievements on a male executive's desk. Your only value was to serve as a flawless piece of scenery, illustrating just how successful the man sitting in the big leather chair truly was. And to maintain this perfect scenery, that glamorous look was actually a strict corporate mandate. Even if the summer temperature skyrocketed to 38 degrees and there was no air conditioning in the building, if you dared to show up without heavy nylon stockings or stiff hairspray locking every strand of hair in place, you would be immediately fired by the next afternoon for ruining the corporate image. To maintain that erect, elegant posture from the advertisements, countless young girls had to spend their days completely trapped in suffocating nylon and metal underwires, silently choking. If the restrictions on appearance were merely physical pain, the boundary-crossing nature of the actual workload was a far more destructive exploitation of a woman's value. In the American business world of the 1950s, secretaries carried an open, secret nickname: the office wife. A secretary had to arrive an hour before the boss every morning, not just to brew coffee and wipe down the desk, but also to go to department stores to pick out jewelry for the boss's legal wife. They were even expected to wash his socks, polish his shoes, and weave expert lies over the phone when his mistress called. Corporate society positioned secretaries as temporary domestic partners within the office. While earning the lowest typist wage, you were forced to provide the unpaid labor of a maid, a nanny, and a PR agent. Worse still, you had to unconditionally absorb all the emotional fallout. When a boss suffered a setback in a corporate battle, he could smash ashtrays and scream profanities, while you were required to maintain a sweet, professional smile at all times. Your smile was not a reflection of happiness. It was a mandatory job requirement. If your face showed even a single second of exhaustion or discontent, you would be instantly labeled as hysterical and unfit for the professional world. Now let us return to that initial scene. That office shot that looks so flirtatious and romantic under the golden sunlight. The boss lights a cigar, casually pats the secretary on her shoulder or thigh. Hollywood told you this was the romantic charm of the era. But this time, let us look under the desk. Out of sight, you would see that the secretary is clenching her fists so hard that her fingernails are digging deeply into her flesh. In the 1950s, within the entire legal system and social vocabulary, the phrase sexual harassment did not even exist. A boss's boundary-crossing touch and a client's highly suggestive jokes were completely normalized under the grand titles of male flattery or harmless office humor. The most terrifying part of this unspoken rule was that it cut off every single escape route for the victim. If you dared to show resistance or report it, the entire company would never blame the powerful executive. Instead, they would put you on trial. If you didn't want to be touched, why did you dress so provocatively? Why did you wear such bright red lipstick? You must have led him on. When resistance happened, a male manager would viciously stamp your employment file with a black mark labeled insubordination. In the end, the one who was ruthlessly fired, publicly disgraced, and permanently blacklisted from ever finding a decent job in all of Manhattan was always the secretary who had absolutely nothing. Even if you possessed incredible endurance, survived countless indignities, and became the fastest, most flawless star secretary in all of Manhattan, this brutal system still prepared a final trap for you: the marriage bar. In the corporate logic of the 1950s, a woman's professional career came with an incredibly brief and cruel expiration date. Companies operated on the assumption that a secretary's ultimate destiny was to find a man to marry before the age of 25 and return to domestic life. The moment you announced your engagement, HR would immediately hand you a termination letter. Society firmly believed that a woman's only true place was the home, and a married woman in the office was viewed as a disgrace. Thus, this seemingly glamorous life in Manhattan skyscrapers was designed from day one to be a temporary youth dynamic lasting only a few short years. So please stop being fooled by those Hollywood-style workplace romances. The secretaries of the 1950s, living in an extreme environment with zero legal protections, no independent financial signing authority, and the constant threat of social objectification, used ultra-high-intensity shorthand and unbelievable grit to single-handedly carry the weight of the post-war American economic boom. They were never the sexy side characters in a scandalous story. They were true workplace survivors. Having heard all of this, if you were to travel back to Manhattan in 1954 and face this system, so beautiful on the outside yet so freezing cold on the inside, how many days do you honestly think you could last? Leave your survival strategy in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoy tearing away the retro aesthetic filters and uncovering the deep, hidden truths of history, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.